On the night of September 7th, 1996, everything pointed to just another unforgettable night in Las Vegas. That night, Mike Tyson and Bruce Seldon were set to face each other in a fight for the heavyweight world title. The event, of course, drew a massive crowd, including countless celebrities. Singer Madonna was there, actor Denzel Washington, NBA superstar Shaquille O'Neal, but the name most remembered from that night was Tupac Shakur. He isn't remembered for what happened during the event, but for what happened afterward. Just a few hours after the fight ended, Tupac Shakur was pronounced dead after being struck by 13 gunshots. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened that night. The case remains open, with no final conclusion. Who ordered the murder? What could they possibly have gained from it? What we do know is this. On that day, the world lost one of its greatest stars. Tupac is, without question, the most important name in hip-hop history. His life was shaped by intrigue, gang conflicts, and unforgettable moments. But how did all of this begin? What really happened in the life and death of Tupac? Today, on The Critical Point. The story of Tupac Shakur begins long before he was ever born. The name the world would come to know was not the one he was given at birth. He was born Lesane Parish Crooks. But shortly after his birth, his mother, Afeni Shakur, made a decision that would change everything. She renamed her son after a powerful historical figure, the Peruvian indigenous leader Tupac Amaru II, a man who, in the 18th century, led a massive popular rebellion against Spanish colonial rule. This practice of changing names was common within certain black communities. It was a way to reconnect, to reclaim African elements within Afro-American identity. And Afeni Shakur, without a doubt, was the most important figure in Tupac Shakur's life. She was a powerful civil rights activist, and was even a member of the Black Panther Party. The group emerged in the mid-1960s as a direct response to police brutality against the black community and to the deep social inequalities they'd faced. Because of this, Tupac Shakur grew up surrounded by a powerful revolutionary spirit. It was within the Black Panther Party that Afeni Shakur met her first husband, Lumumba Shakur. But by the late 1960s, the group came under intense persecution. So much so that Afeni Shakur and Lumumba Shakur were arrested in 1968. During their time in prison, the two grew increasingly distant from each other. And shortly after her release, Afeni met another man, Billy Garland, another activist within the Black Panther Party. Not long after, she became pregnant. A short time later, she became pregnant. And that's when the story took a shocking turn. Afeni was out on bail. She was still facing trial. She could have been sentenced to up to 300 years in prison. Even so, she made an unbelievable decision. She refused all lawyers and chose to defend herself in court. The trial became the longest and most expensive in New York's history at the time. Against all odds, Afeni was acquitted of every charge. 1 month later, Tupac was born. Tupac's story is also marked by the absence of a father figure. Shortly before his birth, Billy Garland stepped away and was absent for much of his son's life. Later, Afeni began a relationship with Mutulu Shakur, Lumumba's younger brother. Mutulu was the one who came closest to being a father figure to Tupac. But like the others, he was also a member of the Black Panthers and spent much of his time in prison. Tupac grew up surrounded by racism, poverty, and urban violence. He lived in black neighborhoods like East Harlem in New York, where the daily struggle for survival shaped people's lives. Later, the family moved to Baltimore. Reality did not improve, but it was there that something began to change. Immersed in this environment, Tupac began to develop his artistic talent. He enrolled in an arts-focused school and quickly stood out: theater, poetry, dance, music. Tupac had a rare ability to express himself in a raw, intense, and authentic way. Through poetry, he used words to speak about his pain, the violence around him, and everything that would later define his lyrics. But a new chapter was about to begin. Afeni decided to send her children to California, trying to keep them away from the worst. In the San Francisco Bay Area, Tupac came into contact with a culture that was exploding: hip-hop. More than music, hip-hop was resistance. It was protest. It was survival. By the late 1980s, Tupac adopted the stage name MC New York and began to seriously engage with the scene. It was during this time that he met Layla Steinberg, who became his mentor and manager. She saw something that very few others did. In 1991, Tupac made his professional debut with the group Digital Underground on the single Same Song. Shortly after, Tupac released Tupacalypse Now. Didn't just tell his own story. It gave a voice to an entire marginalized generation. He spoke about racism, police brutality, drugs, poverty, and abandonment. The criticism of the system was so unsettling that politicians like Dan Quayle publicly attacked the record.
It has no place in our society.
The effect was the opposite of what was expected. The album sold over 500,000 copies and was certified gold. Tupac didn't stop. He wrote as if time were running out. With Strictly For My Niggas, Tupac established himself as a political voice. It was also when the concept of thug life gained strength. It was not a glorification of crime. It was a brutal acronym about how the hatred planted in children eventually returns to society. During this period, Tupac became involved in rivalries that went beyond music. Tensions between the East Coast and the West Coast escalated. On one side, the notorious B.I.G. and Sean Combs. On the other, Tupac. The war was set. In 1994, Tupac was shot 5 times in a recording studio in New York. He survived. Shortly after, he was convicted of sexual abuse and sentenced to prison. He always denied the accusations. During this period, he released Me Against the World, a deep, vulnerable album released while he was behind bars. It was an immediate success. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard charts. Even from prison, Tupac was dominating the world. After 8 months, Tupac received an offer from Suge Knight, the head of Death Row Records. His bail would be paid. Tupac accepted. Once free, he went straight into the studio and recorded All Eyes on Me in just a few weeks. One of the greatest albums in the history of rap. But the tension only continued to rise. Hitmop made it clear that the war was personal, and the world was about to come to a halt. On September 7, 1996, Tupac and Suge Knight attended Mike Tyson's fight at the MGM Grand. Afterward, they left in a black car. Minutes later, a white Cadillac pulled up beside them. 13 shots. Tupac was hit 4 times. 6 days later, he died at the age of 25. Decades passed without answers. In 2023, Dwayne Keith Davis, known as Keith D, was arrested as a suspect. The mystery continues. Tupac sold more than 75 million records. He influenced generations all around the world. He wasn't just an artist, he was the voice of a generation. The world lost a star, but his light is still here. If this video brought more knowledge into your life, subscribe and leave a like. Thanks for watching.